Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's broadcast we are going to be going over severe weather that is currently ongoing right now in portions of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. A severe thunderstorm watch was issued for Northeast Illinois, not including the Chicago metro, northern Indiana, and extreme southwestern Michigan. A tornado watch was just issued for portions of central Wisconsin into southern Minnesota and extreme northern portions of Iowa. You could see you could see the blue polygon. Uh, the blue area is the what do you call it, the severe thunderstorm watch, and the red area is the tornado watch. So if you're in that area, which you'll probably know it because you probably have gotten a ton of notifications. If you're in that area, the area specifically, the blue or the red, uh, then you need to get to shelter, or I'm sorry, prepare to get to shelter because there could be a severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning that could significantly affect your location. There also is a slight risk for portions of Oklahoma City into Oklahoma into Texas. There's an enhanced risk in central Wisconsin into southern Minnesota and extreme northern portions of Iowa. There also is an enhanced risk tomorrow, a slight risk on Wednesday, and a slight risk equivalent on Friday. I think, uh, based on looking at the models and everything, that the severe weather threat will likely come to a close sometime after Friday. However, the models that I'm looking at only go out to 8 days. It's basically probabilistic models, like the CSU and you know, um, like just things like that, like Colorado State University. But anyway, let's dive right into this. So, severe weather is currently not ongoing, not in like a big variety. So I'm going to cover the 20Z Outlook update. Uh, so we have an enhanced risk for, again, central Wisconsin into southern Minnesota and extreme portions of northern Iowa. We also have a slight risk stemming from eastern South Dakota all the way through Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, uh, into portions of northern Indiana and western Michigan, and a marginal risk from Montana and Wyoming all the way to the Detroit area. We have a 10% hatched risk of severe weather. I don't think y'all have seen that before, especially while making these videos. But there's a 10% hatched risk of severe weather, specifically tornadoes, and there's also a 5 and 2% hatched risk of tornadoes. Now, the 10% hatched risk is more concerning than a 5% hatched risk, and a 5% hatched risk is more concerning than a 2% hatched risk of tornadoes because yes, it is going to be severe across the board. However, the probability of a tornado actually forming is different. Okay, in the yellow corridor, it is 10%. In the brown corridor, it's 5%. And in the green corridor, it's 2%. So, in the green corridor, the chances of a tornado are less likely. However, when you get closer to the 5% corridor, tornadoes increase. And tornado probabilities, I should say, increase. And when you get closer to the yellow area, tornado probabilities also increase by a lot. And yes, it is concerning because it's severe across the board. So that's what the hatching is for. The black dashed lines represents hatching. So that means that tornadoes could potentially be EF2 plus, and EF2s are very dangerous, deadly. They kill people. It's not too often that you hear of an EF2 killing people. It's more of EF3s, EF4s, even EF5s. Sometimes EF2s kill people, but sometimes it's rare, sometimes it's not. It depends. But every documented tornado, uh, I should say every documented strength of tornado has killed somebody. It's pretty sad. and it is definitely pretty unfortunate. So yeah, sorry, I'm a little bit stuffy today. We also have a 2% hatched risk of tornadoes going from southeast Kansas into Oklahoma, into Texas, and into the Mexico border. We have a wind risk as well. It's not necessarily that bad. It's only a 15% unhatched. It does not have any stippled regions. You have a 15% wind risk from extreme eastern South Dakota, a little sliver, into northern Iowa, into southern Minnesota, into a big portion of Wisconsin, central and southern Wisconsin, into northeast Illinois, which includes the Chicago metro, into northern Indiana, into western Michigan. The wind risk will definitely be there, however, it just won't be there as much as tornadoes, and what I'm going to show you now, also the wind probability also extends from Montana to Detroit, and also from southeast Kansas to the Mexico border. This is what is perpetuating the enhanced risk. Originally, the Storm Prediction Center had an enhanced risk issued for the St. Paul area, and yes, the 30% hail risk, the enhanced risk, was issued and is still issued for St. Paul and Minneapolis. However, it's been refined and moved a little bit south. So things will definitely change. Things will change. Uh, so the hail threat is going to be unimaginable. That's kind of a word I shouldn't really say. It is imaginable, however, it's just really huge. It's humongous hail. There's a 30% hatched risk of hail from, that perpetuates the enhanced risk from central Wisconsin to southern Minnesota and extreme northern Iowa. Same thing with the slight risk. Portions of the slight risk. This extends from eastern South Dakota all the way through Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, northern Illinois, into northern Indiana, into western Michigan, and then a 5% from Montana to Detroit as well. This time, for the hail risk in the Oklahoma area, there's a 15% hatched risk of hail from Oklahoma City to the Wichita Falls area, all the way up to like Amarillo. I don't know where exactly Amarillo is here. Let's turn on cities. Okay, Amarillo. I was way off. I meant to say Abilene. Sorry. So Oklahoma City to Wichita Falls to Abilene, you are under a 15% hatched risk of hail today, tonight, as thunderstorms will blow through the area. There's a so for any people who are in these regions, uh, either the greens, the red, not the reds, the greens, the yellows, uh, and the orange, there is going to be a risk for tornadoes, uh, hail, and damaging winds, particularly strong tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds. So please be prepared immediately if you are under a severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning tonight. There could be a couple of PDS tornado warnings and maybe a tornado emergency. However, I really hope to God and pray to everything and everybody that a tornado emergency does not have to be perpetuated, does not have to be issued by an extremely dangerous and devastating tornado. Anyway, let's read the description here. Summary. Actually, yeah, the previous discussion. So that's the 20Z update. Upper Mississippi Valley and Great Lakes, including Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Multiple lead mid-level disturbances over the northern high plains will progress northeastward today towards the upper Midwest, with strengthening winds aloft across this region, particularly late today and tonight. A surface low will tend to deepen and develop east-northeastward from northeast Nebraska into far southern Minnesota and Wisconsin by tonight, in vicinity of a slow-moving and stalled frontal boundary. Low to mid-60s dew points, surface dew points, will advect north-northeastward and become increasingly prevalent along and south of the aforementioned stationary warm front this afternoon. Mixed layer convective available potential energy values are forecast to reach 2 to 20 to 2500 joules per kilogram by around 21Z or 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Thunderstorm development will become increasingly probable through mid to late afternoon, 21Z to 0Z, as isentropic ascent strengthens ahead of the approaching upper disturbance. This should especially be the case near the primary boundary. However, semi-discrete warm sector supercellular development across areas such as southern Wisconsin cannot be ruled out. Lingering inhibition coupled with 45 to 50 knot effective bulk shear should promote initially discrete supercells. Photograph elongation appears favorable for a large hail threat, possibly as large as 2 to 3 inches in diameter with the more robust cells. Additionally, enhanced low-level storm relative helicity along the frontal zone is expected to result in a corridor of relatively higher tornado potential for thunderstorms that can remain rooted immediately along the boundary. While the overall environment appears very favorable for intense convection and supercells, east-northeasterly storm motions along or just north of the warm front will likely promote clustering and upscale growth through the evening, with an increasingly damaging wind potential and a continued tornado risk via line-embedded circulations. Northern Illinois and northern Indiana and southern Lake Michigan. See Mesoscale Discussion 395 for short-term details. There is the potential that a somewhat separate corridor of severe weather potential today, potentially via a subtle mid-level wave and morning convection across northeast Missouri and northwest Illinois vicinity, and/or additional development later today. The initially elevated storms are on the edge of the east-northeastward advecting elevated mixed layer. Steep mid-level lapse rates and 35 plus knots of effective shear could support initially isolated hail potential, but a more organized surface-based severe weather risk could materialize later this afternoon, although specific details remain uncertain. Southern Plains into Oklahoma and Texas. So we do have a couple of a couple of paragraphs to go. Northern High Plains. Yeah, we could read about that. Southern Plains, including Oklahoma and Texas. Confidence and potential for isolated to widely scattered locally intense storms later this afternoon has incrementally increased, although specifics regarding the extent of convective inhibition are still uncertain. A moist and potentially unstable air mass will persist regionally to the east of a dry line located around peak heating from east-central Kansas south-southwestward into west-central Oklahoma and western North Texas to the Texas Big Bend vicinity. Immediately east of the dry line, warm sector dew points are expected to generally be in the mid-60s, supporting mixed layer convective available potential energy, or ML-CAPE, values to 2,500 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. A subtle disturbance over northern Mexico and the southern Rockies could approach the dry line and warm sector later today. Regardless, ample post-dry line mixing and near dry line confluence / weak convergence should be sufficient for isolated deep convection initiation after 21Z or 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Forecast mass fields and some short-term guidance would imply that this is most probable across central and southwest Oklahoma into the North Texas Big Country and perhaps somewhat separately across the Texas Big Bend and Rio Grande vicinity. If and where storms develop and mature, deep layer shear on the order of 40 plus knots will support supercells, potentially capable of all hazards, including very large hail. Northern high plains, generally isolated severe thunderstorms, including a few low-topped supercells capable of hail and wind, are possible late this afternoon into the evening along and north of a surface front. This is where modest low-level moisture and vertical shear will be maximized in the presence of steep low to mid-level lapse rates. So that was the 1630Z update. Now let's look at the 20Z update. Summary: severe thunderstorms remain likely across the upper Mississippi Valley and Great Lakes region with potential for large to very large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes mainly late this afternoon into tonight. A more isolated risk for severe thunderstorms is possible across portions of the southern plains late this afternoon and evening. 20Z update, Upper Midwest. Afternoon visible satellite imagery showed diurnal heating ongoing south of the stalled front from the eastern South Dakota across southern Minnesota into central Wisconsin. Moderate destabilization should support scattered to numerous thunderstorms this afternoon and evening. Initially, supercells are likely given strongly veering wind profiles and moderate deep layer flow. All hazards are possible with these storms. With time, upscale growth into one or more lines or clusters appears likely as thunderstorms spread eastward into the Great Lakes. Convective development appears likely along the triple point near the surface low from northeast and eastern Nebraska into southeastern South Dakota. Supercell wind profiles and moderate buoyancy would support a risk for large hail and some damaging wind gusts. A tornado or two may occur as any supercells that develop move eastward into deeper low-level moisture across northwestern Iowa and southern Minnesota. Southern and central plains. Towering cumulus along a dry line over parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas may support isolated thunderstorm development late this afternoon. A conditionally favorable environment over 3,000 joules per kilogram of mixed layer convective available potential energy and 35 to 40 knots of effective shear for supercells will support a risk for all hazards. See mesoscale convective discussion number 399 for short-term information. The primary change for this outlook was to extend severe probabilities northeastward into eastern Kansas. Guidance and observational trends have shown an increased likelihood of a storm or two this afternoon. So in short, for today, severe thunderstorms are expected, Oklahoma, Texas, into Kansas, and also from the northern high plains into the upper Midwest. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, all y'all are going to get severe weather. Chicago, Gary, Grand Rapids, La Crosse, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rockford, Bloomington, Springfield, Illinois, all y'all are going to get severe weather. Green Bay, Milwaukee, Janesville, all y'all are going to get severe weather today. So please be prepared. However, tomorrow it's even worse because there is another enhanced risk. So instead of it being in central Wisconsin, southern Minnesota, and extreme northern Iowa, it affects the Chicago area now. So it's in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and eastern Iowa, including Lake Michigan. So there's going to be a relatively higher corridor of severe weather near the Chicago area. Chicago, Milwaukee, Janesville, Rockford, Dubuque, Clinton, Des Moines, Davenport, Iowa. All of y'all are in the severe weather risk for tomorrow. This is Tuesday severe weather risk. Tuesday specifically has a high ceiling. Let's turn on cities. Chicago, Milwaukee, Des Moines, Madison, and Aurora. You guys are all under the 3 out of 5 enhanced risk for tomorrow. There's also a slight risk extending from Cleveland and Lake Erie all the way from Detroit, Fort Wayne, Green Bay, La Crosse, Peoria, Springfield, Hannibal, Kansas City, Wichita, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Wichita Falls, Abilene, Midland, and stretches all the way down to the Mexico border. So there's a marginal risk extending from the Mexico border all the way up to upstate New York into New England. So places like Fort Stockton, Woodward, Springfield, Omaha, St. Louis, Indianapolis, let's see here, Scranton, Binghamton, Buffalo, Rochester, Watertown, Burlington, Vermont, Albany. All those places are going to see a marginal risk of severe weather. However, again, the main concern for tomorrow is that severe weather will be plaguing the Chicago, Milwaukee, and Des Moines and Davenport metros and all of those cities in the orange. The tornado risk is definitely extremely dangerous. We have a 10% hatched risk of tornadoes again, so there are going to be higher than normal probabilities for tornadoes, and those tornadoes could potentially be very strong with theoretical limits of EF2+. There's also a 5% hatched and a 2% hatched risk, and also there's a 5% hatched risk of tornadoes in Oklahoma City into Lawton into Walters, Oklahoma into so basically just like kind of Wichita Falls almost. So yes, there's a 2% risk for the entire entire LP or Lower Peninsula of Michigan. So the lower part of Michigan is completely under a 2% tornado risk. So the entire state of Michigan could see tornadoes. Detroit to Grand Rapids to Grand Traverse, all of those places, like forming a triangle basically, all of those places in the lower peninsula of Michigan could see tornadoes. Will they be strong? I don't know. The Storm Prediction Center does not delineate tornadic strength according to this outlook. However, obviously, the Union City, Michigan EF3 that we had just a couple of weeks ago is a great explanation of how severe weather does not have to be delineated as severe in order to kill people, harm things, and create a lot of chaos and destruction. So yes, the 10% tornado risk from Illinois to extreme southern Wisconsin to central and eastern Iowa, and then that expands out, and also there's a 5% hatched risk of tornadoes in Oklahoma City. The wind risk, it's a 15% across the board. From Cleveland to Detroit, to Grand Rapids, to Gary, to Chicago, to Milwaukee, to Davenport, to Des Moines, to Peoria, to Springfield, to Springfield, Missouri, and Illinois, and also Kansas City, into Wichita, into Oklahoma City, into Wichita Falls, into Abilene, and down into Mexico. It's just wind across the board. What can I say? Nothing too significant. And then the hail is also what is perpetuating the enhanced risk. Yes, the 10% hatched risk of tornadoes is also perpetuating the enhanced risk, but it's very tiny compared to the hail threat. There's a 30% hatched risk of severe hail, SIG 1, conditional intensity group 1, and that's again as I said, what's driving the enhanced risk. So long story short, for tomorrow, there's also going to be severe weather for Illinois, Wisconsin, and Iowa, mostly in those main corridors. So let's read the discussion. I'm gonna blow my nose really quickly, so be right back. My apologies, I should have done that before the recording, but silly me, I forgot. So let's read the description. Summary. Severe thunderstorms are expected on Tuesday and Tuesday night from the southern plains to the Great Lakes. Large to very large hail, a few tornadoes, and damaging wind gusts will be possible, particularly across parts of eastern Iowa, northern Illinois, and southern Wisconsin. Additional strong thunderstorms, mainly producing strong wind gusts, will be possible across parts of the Northeast. I forgot to mention tornadoes, some strong, so just keep that in mind. Some tornadoes do have the potential to be extremely potent and powerful. But anyway, synopsis. The western United States trough will eject across the Four Corners region into the Intermountain West, with strong southwesterly flow overspreading the Rockies into the central and southern plains and upper Midwest. A shortwave trough will pivot through this flow across the upper Midwest through the period. A surface low will be centered over the mid-Missouri Valley for much of the period, with a warm front extending east-northeast from north-central Iowa into southern Wisconsin and central lower Michigan. Meanwhile, a dry line will extend southwest across eastern Kansas into western Texas. These features will be the focus of scattered thunderstorm development through the afternoon and evening. Mid-Missouri Valley into the Great Lakes region. We have 3 paragraphs excluding this one. Strong daytime heating is expected along and south of the warm front from north central Iowa into southern Wisconsin and lower Michigan Tuesday afternoon. This, in combo with dew points in the low to mid-60s, will yield moderate to strong instability, with mixed layer convective available potential energy around 1500 to 2500 joules per kilogram. Scattered thunderstorms are likely to develop around 20 Z, which is 4 p.m. 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Given deep layer shear around 40 knots, storm mode will be supercellular. Initially, low-level shear will be marginal, with generally straight and elongated hodographs. In addition, northeasterly storm motions will favor crossing the warm front to the cool side of the boundary. This will make the primary threat large to very large hail, some 2 to 3 plus inches in diameter. With time, and as the low-level jet increases during the evening, convection may consolidate and grow upscale into one or more Boeing segments and produce progress eastward into lower Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, posing a continued risk for hail and an increasing risk for damaging wind gusts. As the strengthening 850 to 700 millibar low-level jet axis will nudge into central Iowa, northern Missouri, and northern Illinois, it will usher in a plume of steep low to mid-level lap straights and enlarged low-level hodographs, increasing tornado potential. While there remains uncertainty, there is signal within high-resolution guidance from the high-resolution ensemble forecast for sustained updraft helicity tracks south of the warm front. Convective allowing model guidance varies on how the scenario will play out. As mentioned above, a few CAM solutions favor clustering and linear development by the evening. Should a more discrete supercell or two be able to route along or south of the boundary, a few tornadoes will be possible, some strong, potentially over EF2. Nonetheless, even with a more linear mode, increasing low-level shear will favor an increasing chance for line-embedded tornadoes. Southern plains into eastern Kansas and western Missouri. Thunderstorm development is likely along the dry line across the southern plains Tuesday afternoon. Strong capping will remain through much of the morning, but strong heating and convergence along the dry line favor at least isolated thunderstorm development by around 19 to 20 Z, so 2 to 3 p.m. Central. The environment ahead of the dry line will be characterized by moderate to strong instability, steep lapse rates, and favorable deep layer shear profiles to support supercells. Large to very large hail, 1 to 2 inches in diameter, damaging winds, and perhaps a tornado. Northeast. Rounds of thunderstorms are expected during the afternoon and evening within a warm advection regime. ML Cape should increase to 1,000 joules per kilogram within a moistening low-level air mass. Strong deep layer westerly flow and steepening low-level lapse rates will support isolated strong wind gusts across the region. We still got 2 more days to go because we got Wednesday, which has a severe threat, a stippled region, from Iowa to Texas, and a slight risk from Wisconsin to Texas. A marginal risk extending from the Mexico border to northeast Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, and southern New York, not including the New York City area. So, summary. Severe thunderstorms posing a risk for large hail and strong wind gusts will be possible across portions of the southern plains toward the Great Lakes on Wednesday afternoon and evening. Synopsis. The upper level trough will move eastward from the plains into the upper Midwest on Wednesday, with continued enhanced west to southwesterly flow across the southern plains into the Great Lakes region. The surface dry line will remain in a similar place from Tuesday, extending across western Oklahoma into southwestern and western Texas. A surface low will shift eastward across Iowa into Wisconsin, with a cold front shifting south and east through the period. Scattered thunderstorm development is expected from the southern plains into the upper Midwest along the aforementioned boundaries Wednesday afternoon and evening. Southern plains to Great Lakes. Widely scattered showers and thunderstorms will be ongoing at the start of the period at 12Z Wednesday across much of the slight risk region. A secondary round of thunderstorm development is likely to occur. Damn, I lost my place. A secondary round of thunderstorm development is likely to occur near and ahead of the dry line, extending from West Texas into western Oklahoma Wednesday afternoon. It remains somewhat uncertain how morning convection will evolve and what the resulting effect on the thermodynamic environment will be. Most guidance suggests that in the area ahead of the dry line across central Oklahoma to the Red River in northern Texas will develop at least moderate instability, i.e. 1000 to 2000 or 1000 to 2000 joules per kilogram of CAPE. Deep layer shear profiles will remain strongly favoring supercells as the primary mode. The main threat will be for large to very large hail and damaging winds, given linearly long elongated hodographs and weaker low-level shear. Thunderstorms are also expected to redevelop further north across the Central Plains into the Great Lakes region along the dryline and cold front intersection. A messy mode with mix of supercells and multicellular clusters is likely given the eventual southward moving cold front. Similarly, the main risks will be for damaging winds and large hail across these regions. Northeast. Showers and thunderstorm activity are expected to develop along and south of a diffuse frontal boundary across the Great Lakes into southern New York and northern Pennsylvania. Modestly unstable profiles, steepening lapse rates, and strong deep layer shear will allow for some isolated severe thunderstorm risk. Primary risk would be for damaging winds and small hail, though a tornado could be possible near the boundary. So, from Texas to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York, and especially from Wisconsin to Texas, severe weather is expected on Wednesday. However, given the morning convection, we really don't know how that severe weather is going to play out. So, day 4 has nothing. Day 5, there is something. It's little, but it's not nothing. And then day 6, day 7, and day 8, there's nothing, which is great because severe weather is definitely getting overwhelming. This is day 5. We have a slight risk equivalent from extreme portions of western Illinois into Iowa, all the way down into Missouri, southeast Nebraska, eastern and central Kansas, into Oklahoma. So let's read the description. Day 4, Thursday, Mid-South vicinity. An upper shortwave trough will develop northeast from eastern Oklahoma and Texas to the central and southern Appalachians on Thursday. Convection is likely to be ongoing from the mid-Mississippi and lower Ohio valleys to the Arklatex region Thursday morning. This will likely temper downstream destabilization and the overall risk of severe weather, but a few strong storms are possible across the Mid-South vicinity. Day 5, Friday, Southern Plains to Iowa. Medium range guidance has been consistently showing an upper trough over the western United States developing eastward towards the high plains Friday and Friday night. As this occurs, increasing deep layer southwesterly flow will overspread a seasonally moist and unstable air mass. A lee low will develop over the central and southern high plains with a dry line extending across western Oklahoma and Texas during the afternoon. By evening and into the overnight, a cold front will spread southeast across the central and southern plains and lower Missouri Valley. This pattern will support a risk of severe thunderstorms across the warm sector from Oklahoma to Iowa. Day 6 through 8, Saturday through Monday. There is no severe weather risk delineated on days 6, 7, or 8. Some severe risk may persist into Saturday as a surface low deepens over the Great Lakes and the cold front from the Friday period, day 5, continues to sweep east across the Midwest to the lower Mississippi Valley, becoming oriented across the Appalachians by Sunday morning. Severe potential may depend on how convection on Friday evolves and impacts the downstream air mass heading into Saturday morning, resulting in low predictability at this time. Strong surface high pressure will build across the plains in the wake of the cold front, and Gulf moisture will become cut off as the front pushes well south into the Gulf Basin. This should bring a reprieve from severe thunderstorm potential Sunday into Monday as surface high pressure envelops much of the contiguous United States east of the Rockies by the end of the period. So, severe weather is expected to lash out tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday, will be subdued on Thursday and will reinvigorate on Friday. However, Saturday through Monday, severe weather is tempered, and severe weather will likely be halted after Saturday as a high pressure builds across the eastern two-thirds of the contiguous United States. Remember, if you live in the orange regions or the yellow regions that were mentioned, for today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday, please be aware that severe weather is very, very likely, and you need to know what to do when a tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning comes through. You need to be able to get to shelter immediately or evacuate. Have a survival kit with you. Know where to go, where to evacuate, and how to do it, and when to do it, because this can ultimately save your life. This is something very important that many people, all people, should know how to do. They should know how to be safe when an emergency situation regarding weather happens. Anyways, that is going to be it for today's video. I will see you all in the next one, where I will be covering tomorrow's enhanced risk.